right. Thank you very much, Leah. Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here with you today. My name is Andy Liascos. I'm the Director of Partner Delivery here at CardConnect. I'm going to be walking you through our CardPointe tool here. Our CardPointe tool, this is our merchant-facing portal. This is an area where they can come in, use the virtual terminal to run transactions, pull up any report that they need. What you're going to see today is what we do is we have a really easy-to-use, user-friendly, intuitive tool for merchants to come in, run transactions, pull up reports, view statements. Everything that we do here at CardConnect, we provide with what's called point-to-point encrypted security, and that means all the transactions that merchants run through our gateway are going to receive best-in-class security. With that said, from a sales standpoint, being one of the I think there's only 7 point-to-point or P2PE validated solutions in the States here. Being one of those providers, merchants who are using a point-to-point encrypted solution can actually reduce their PCI scope. They qualify for SAQ P2PE HW. That's about 12 to 15 questions long, so it's a very short SAQ. It also can remove their network from PCI scope. So that means no more quarterly scans for those merchants. It can save them a lot of money on spending, capital to invest in their infrastructure to make sure their network remains PCI compliant. So we take on that liability. We remove the burden from the merchant with that, and that can also save them a lot of money with not having to keep their network up to PCI scope. The other thing that we do here at CardConnect with the CardPointe and CardConnect Gateway is we do automatic interchange optimization, which means we're going to pass level 2 and level 3 data automatically for customers. What we do is we use our own bin range recognition software. We identify corporate, business, and purchasing cards. Once we've identified the card type as that, we're going to pass all the corresponding data required to achieve the best possible interchange rate. We have multiple different ways that merchants can connect to our gateway. We have the CardPointe tool here, which is our virtual terminal. We also have our own mobile application. We have our own retail terminal application, which is on the Ingenico ICT 220, ICT 250. We have a robust API service, device integrations, hosted payment page. We have all these different ways that benefits, the point-to-point encryption, the automatic processing through the CardConnect Gateway. All of those connections are going to report right here in CardPointe, so the merchant can log in, see where any transaction's coming from, whether it's the API, whether it's the mobile app. So with that said, we're going to get right down to it. We're going to start taking a look here at some things in CardPointe. Right now we're at the dashboard, and this is where the merchant is brought to every time they log in. This is sort of their home screen. They're presented with several different pieces of information here, and please bear in mind that this is my test account, so there's not a lot of processing volume. So, but what they're seeing here is they're seeing a summary of their most recent or their current open batch. We have authorized transactions versus captured transactions. We're a multi-merchant tool, so this would be for all of their locations. So whether they have, 5 locations, 10, 15, 20, 100, what we're seeing here is an overview of all of that activity. Once we get to the reporting, we can drill down and get per location, but right now we're just looking at an overview of the entire grouping of locations. Next, we have a summary of their 5 most recent funding events. We do report on the full life cycle of the transaction, so from authorization to deposit. Here we're just showing the date and the activity or dollar amount that was deposited into their account on that day. Next, we have a bar graph that just shows their funding trends. They can hover over any of this information and, again, just see an overview of what was done on their day. We're always defaulted to show the last 30 days worth of data, and we're always defaulted to show all merchants, but they could choose a single one here. Merchants can also choose a specific date range. So if they wanted to see their transactions, from February to the end of March, they could easily do that. I usually like to point out here that when we built this tool, we really wanted to make it user-friendly and easy to use, and we built it on a language called Angular JavaScript. Without getting too technical, what that means is that we have the ability to cache, store, and present data really quickly. So when we're looking at the information here, we're defaulted to the last 30 days, but I can choose any of these floating date ranges, even all time, which is the entire lifespan of the merchant. And when I do that, you can see there's not a long wait time here. We have that data ready to go. We're going to present it really quickly to the merchant, no spinning icons, things like that. Lastly, on the dashboard, we have our notification center. Merchants can subscribe to different notifications, show me anytime there's a refund, show me when there's a decline, show me when there's a chargeback. They can get those notifications here. They can click on a link to get more detail. They can also have those notifications emailed to them. So moving on to My Account. The My Account page is kind of where the merchants are going to see all the information about all of their locations. They're going to see the account name, their merchant ID, the status of the account, the date it was added, and their PCI status. Merchants can also click here. We have a single sign-on with our PCI provider, TrustWave. They can click here, complete their SAQ, complete their PCI compliance, and make sure they're compliant and ready to go. They click on this little arrow here, they're just going to find out some more information about their account. We'll show them the address and contact information we have on file, other cards they accept. If they have any pending integrations or anything special about the CardPointe platform, we're going to show them here. Like I have a pending WooCommerce, and I'm using the CardPointe terminal. The merchant can also enroll into paperless statements right here. In CardPointe, one of the things we wanted to do was have one single navigation bar, making it, very clean and easy to read, with a series of sub-tabs here. If I go to the next tab, Equipment, this is going to show me all the equipment with my account. Again, since we are a P2PE validated solution, we need to keep track of serial number, the terminal type, the application. We also need to keep track of the chain of custody, which means we need to know where terminals are at all times. Merchants can come in here, learn more information about their device, such as the application, the last date it was initialized on. But what they can also do is edit the address. So again, as I said, we need to know where the devices are at all times. If they want to take a terminal, move it from one location to another, they can easily do that, update the address, and they're still keeping all of their records in our terminal management system up to date. They can also disable a device remotely, so if anything ever breaks, is stolen, or anything like that, they can disable it. That will kill the device completely. It'll send a message to us. We will remove it. There'll be no way to communicate with the device anymore. Lastly, under the My Account section, we have the Orders tab. The Orders tab is just an easy way for merchants to keep track of any orders they may have or orders that you may have placed in Copilot for them for additional equipment. They're going to see the location. Again, we're a multi-merchant tool, so they can drill down on an individual location if they needed to. They can see the type of terminal that they have. They can also see the quantity that they ordered and the order date, as well as the status. If they click down in here, they can drill into more information. They can see the person that it was sent to, as well as the address. They can see the carrier that we use to send it, and they can also access the tracking information just with one click of a button here. This is going to load the UPS site and tell me that this package has been delivered. All right, so moving on to one of the bread and butter aspects of CardPointe, the reporting tab. As I said before, we have a very robust reporting environment. Merchants can easily customize reports, create reports, pull up things very simply and easily. One of the things we wanted to do was get rid of the concept of pages. So as you're looking through a lot of data, it might be on page 1, page 2, page 3, page 33. We wanted to get rid of that because as you're going through a large report and you're searching, you have to search on each individual page and it becomes a headache. What we do is we present all the data at once. So if you change the date range, you can see the total line count that I have here is 23. So I'm showing 23 items right now for a total dollar amount of 9 cents. But if I, again, wanted to change this date from one of the floating days, we always defaulted to the last 7 days, but I can choose any of these floating date ranges, including all time, or put in a specific date range. As I do that, and there's more records here, the merchant's just going to be able to scroll through. When they get to about 100 records, we're going to load the next 100 records. As I said before, as a multi-merchant tool, merchants can see all of their locations here at one time, or they can view an individual location, or they can view a grouping of locations. So if I had 75 chains, and I wanted to look at, say my Northeast locations, which were 10 locations, I could easily just click those 10 locations, get an overview of what that region or department is doing. I discussed the date. The method, this is just how the transaction was ran. Was it a sale? Was it a refund? Was it a forced credit? That's a refund without a reference. So if a merchant switches over from another processor to us, they need to refund a transaction that they had run previously. They're going to run a forced credit, which is, again, just a refund with no reference in the gateway. They can search by statuses, show me my authorized transactions, captured, my processed, refunded, voided, declined. Again, we're going to update all that information really, really quickly. We're going to always update the total account, the total count, and the total dollar amount. Merchants can download any report into a CSV, so that way they can further manipulate it and get specific within Excel. The front end for us is a little different than what you may be used to. We're not talking about Nashville or Bypass or CardNet or any of those front ends. What we're talking about here is where was the transaction originating from? So did it come in via the API or the hosted payment page? Was it done in the CardPointe BT or our CardPointe mobile app? Was it a recurring billing transaction, or did it come in from the retail terminal? So if a merchant has multiple ways they're processing, they can really see each of those individual layers. So if you have a merchant that has an e-commerce presence and a retail terminal presence, they can come in here and drill down and see just their retail terminal transactions. So they can really, come in and manage both sides of their business. Lastly, here we have the columns, and the columns are what's just displayed in the report. The merchant can adjust this. They can remove things like date or location if they wanted to, add additional things like the company or username. We do allow merchants to add up to 10 custom user fields. Those fields are also available to be added to the report. So it's a nice thing. It's not just captured during the transaction. It's something that's really beneficial to them because they can use it for reporting purposes as well. Merchants can click into any transaction just by clicking the transaction number. They're going to see more detailed information on the transaction, such as the user that ran the transaction, the location it was ran, the authorized and capture amount, their customer profile information, some of the transaction processing details. They can also see if this was part of a billing plan, which this transaction was. They can print receipts, email receipts, void transactions. We do support restaurant as well, so they can adjust tips. They can adjust tips regardless of where the transaction was ran. So if it was ran on the API, they can come here and adjust the tip. Or ran on the CardPointe terminal, they can adjust the tip here. Most everything in CardPointe is no more than 2 button clicks. So if I wanted to void this transaction I ran earlier, I can just click void and then confirm. Very simple, very easy to do. Now, merchants can also save any report they create, so they don't have to come in every time and adjust this data. So if they wanted to create something like a monthly decline report where I'm just looking at, the last 30 days, and I wanted to see, just my declines, I can do that. And what I do then is I can just save the report, call it declines. I can decide whether this is a private report, something I, as a user, only have the rights to see, or I can make it public so that every user that accesses my account can actually go ahead and pull up this report. So I can save the report. The next time I come in, I don't have to come and manipulate the data. I can just search here. in my saved reports, find my declines reports, and run that report. I can also delete any report. So if I decide I created a bunch of saved reports and I don't use them very often, just come simply, quickly delete that report. The gateway batches, again, pretty self-explanatory here. This is where all batches are. You can drill in and see any batch information that you want. You can see your open batch. This is going to show, all the transactions that are current and open now. We are going to show a single batch for all gateway activity on the virtual terminal, API, and mobile. With the CardPointe terminal or the storefront terminal, we will create a separate batch for each terminal. That way, if the merchant has different departments that may close early or at different times, they can manage those terminal batches individually. They can close those batches on the terminal itself, or again, they can come into CardPointe and close the batch. As I said before, we report on the full life cycle of the transaction, so from authorization to deposit. In the funding tab, we can see the date that a deposit was made into our account. We can click on here, see the transactions that made up that deposit. If there were multiple batches that made up that deposit, we could see that information here. Again, like any report, we can always download this information or search this information. The funding events are going to tell us what our net sales were and if there were any fees or debits or anything like that. So it's going to give us our net. If fees were charged, like on the second business day of the month, it'll display that here, then giving us what our gross deposit would be. Chargebacks. As things progress, we will probably eventually do an integration or a single sign-on with Dispute Manager. But for right now, what we're doing is we're reporting on chargebacks as they occur. Normally, chargeback notifications go out via U.S. Postal Mail. They could take up to 5 days to get to a merchant's location. Then there could be some additional time after that if the mail is misfiled or it winds up on the wrong person's desk. And as you know, merchants only have 30 days to reply with chargebacks. We will reply with the chargeback as soon as it happens. We'll provide all the information we can, the last four, the card type, the date the transaction was ran, as well as the date the chargeback was logged, the case number, and the original transaction ID. So this way, at least merchants can be a little bit more proactive in addressing those chargebacks. Lastly, we have the Statements tab. This is just where the merchant statements exist. They can come here, pull any statement for any of their locations. It's just going to download a PDF, and they can click on that and open up that file to view their statement. Next, I want to look at the virtual terminal and how merchants can run transactions. Again, we're a multi-merchant tool. It's very simple. Just click here. There's a drop-down. Find the location that you need to run a transaction on. Now, the merchant does have the ability to create different users, and those user types can have limited access to locations. So if you are a merchant admin and you're the admin of a 75 location chain merchant, and you want to add users that only have access to one or two or a handful of those locations, you can easily do that in the Administration tab. So we'll select our location. We'll select the type of transaction we want to run, sale, force credit, or verify. If we choose sale, we're always defaulted to auth and capture that transaction, but they could authorize only. Now, the merchant can just go ahead and enter their new customer information, no problem. Again, we do allow merchants to add up to 10 custom user fields on this, so they can make this as basic as they'd like, or they can make this as detailed as they'd like. They can decide whether those custom fields are going to be applied to the customer profile or to the transaction detail here. Some examples of those custom fields could be customer ID number, for doctor's offices and dentist's offices. It could be something like patient name or patient number, case number, anything that the merchant needs to capture, they can enter here. So besides just adding new customers, merchants can also search their customer vault right here. They can search by any information they've captured for that customer. So they can search by first name. If they're using something even on a custom field like customer ID number, they can just go ahead and search that. Whatever they capture, if they capture the merchant's, their customer's address, they can search on the address. Again, very simple, very easy. Pull up the customer record here. We allow the merchant to add as many additional cards to their customers as needed. Every transaction we process is going to be encrypted and tokenized. There's no limit on the amount of tokens that they can use. Tokens can be shared across MIDs as well as across processing sources. So, you know, if a transaction is originated on the API, the token's created there, you can use that same token in the virtual terminal or any other Card Connect product. So I put in my customer information, pulled up my customer. I'm just going to go ahead and enter my dollar amount here and process the transaction. Again, the transaction goes through. We're always showing the currency that we process the transaction in because we can process transactions in over 181 different currencies. I want to pop back to the virtual terminal here quick. Talk about, you know, I mentioned the customers tab here briefly before. This is just where all their stored customers are. They can come in, edit, change, delete customers just by clicking on the customer number here. What we're going to do is we're going to pull up a customer. You know, here they can just edit their address, add new cards. They can delete cards as well. Again, any of the custom user fields that we created are going to be available here. So for example, if I wanted to delete the second account, very simple, and now I only have one payment card on here. Merchants will also be able to see the complete transaction history of that customer. They can access those transactions at any time. You know, if a customer ever, you know, wants to find out if a refund was ran, they can easily do that just by accessing the customer page. If the customer has any recurring billing plans, they can see that here as well. Speaking of recurring billing, we will talk about that really quick. Recurring billing, very simple, very easy. All the recurring billing plans are here, listed here. You can again search by location. You can search by the status, show me just my completed plans. I can add a new billing plan for a customer. I can again either enter that customer information here, or I can search for an existing customer. I can decide if I need to send an email receipt with every transaction we run. Is the plan going to be daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly? What day do I want this to start billing on? Am I going to bill my customer every month or every other month, every quarter? I could do that very simply. And how long is the plan going to last? Until I cancel it, until a certain date, or until a certain number of payments are made. So I can do a plan for, I need to collect 56 payments. We'll always default name the plan the customer's name, but you can name this anything. And then I'll do my dollar amount is $47.23. And then here it's going to break out my payment schedule. It'll give me an overview of my total plan here. So I'm collecting 56 payments of $47.23 each for a total of $2,644.88. Merchant just needs to click Save Plan. That's it. They can go ahead and not worry about that. That's going to process automatically for them every month or every day, however they want to set it up. I'm going to talk about our catalog here. So the catalog is for our mobile application. So within our CardPointe mobile application, we have a very simple touchscreen POS. The catalog gives the merchants the ability to add categories, and then those categories have products within them. So for example, if I was a coffee shop or something like that, I could have a category of beverages, and then my products could be coffee, and I could have small, medium, large, have the prices all there, tea, soda, water, whatever I wanted. And then I could have another category of pastries or bakery items, have croissants, donuts. Again, all the prices are there. It's just a really easy touch screen POS. Choose my category, choose my product, run the transaction. I can apply discounts within that environment. I can apply a discount to the entire order, which we call a cart discount. So it's a discount on the entire shopping cart, or a product. So if I was a small taco truck or something like that, and I wanted to have Taco Tuesday, I could, again, put a discount on a single product or on an entire order. The marketplace, merchants can come here and learn about additional products and features that we have. They can come and order equipment. So obviously, Leah showed you how to place an order within Copilot. Merchants can come here and order devices themselves as well. They can learn about additional services like 3D Secure and other fraud prevention, gateway features like account updater, pinless debit, business analytics like Insightix, shopping cart integrations, hardware like In-Store and Clover, accounting tie-ins like QuickBooks. Our QuickBooks plugin does work with every version of QuickBooks, so we support QuickBooks Pro, Premier, Enterprise, QuickBooks Online, and QuickBooks POS. One of our industry partners, DonorPro, they specialize in the 501c and charitable givings marketplace. It's a nice software for any merchants that do that. They can learn more information. And then our ERP integrations to Oracle and SAP. So we do have tie-ins to both Oracle and SAP, different versions of that like EBS and so on. And merchants can come here and find out more information on that. Lastly, our administration page. This is where the merchant can come and make any sort of account level changes. They can add users, they can add fields to the virtual terminal. So we talked about custom fields, but here they can also, if they wanted to enable CVV or convenience fee, if they wanted to enable a tip within the virtual terminal, they could do that. They can also add things like address line 2, or social security number, driver's license number. They can make any of these fields required as well. Here we have the user fields, or the custom user fields. Again, they can add up to 10 of them, name them whatever they want, decide whether they apply to the customer profile or the transaction detail. Just like any field, they can make that field required if they want. The receipts tab, this is just an easy way for them to come in and edit how the printable and email receipt are going to look. Like I said before, I know I've mentioned it quite a few times, but with those 10 custom user fields, they can add those to the receipt as well. Batching, we're always going to default auto batch time for the latest cutoff for next day funding. So anything within this blue, we can guarantee next day funding on. Anything within the red, we cannot. Merchants do not need to auto close, but they can if they want. They can manual close if needed as well. Security, there's just some additional security settings here. If a merchant wants to put in a max transaction or refund amount, they can do that here. If they want to require a CVV match or AVS match, they can do that. They can also put a transaction threshold on that. So for example, if I wanted to require AVS match, but only required on transactions of 1,500 or above, I can easily do that. Lastly, our interchange settings. As I said, we are going to pass L2 and L3 data automatically. If the merchant ever wanted to edit or change that default data, they can do that. Again, if the merchant's going to pass that data themselves, we're never going to override it. But if the merchant doesn't pass a required field, we will identify it and make sure that that gets sent to the processor so that they always achieve L2 and L3 data. So hopefully what you can see here is with CardPointe, we have a really easy to use, user-intuitive, user-friendly tool where merchants can come in, they can see every aspect of their transactions that are running through the gateway. They can run transactions, set up recurring billing plans, pull advanced reports, have access to all the information that's going on in their business as far as their processing goes, available to them at any computer or any mobile device. So with that said, I did go 1 minute over. I apologize for that, but I do want to thank you for taking the time and joining us today. My name again is Andy Liascos. I look forward to hearing and working with you all in the future. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you make sure to make note of them, and we will be getting back to you as soon as possible on that. So again, thank you everybody for taking the time, and have a wonderful day.